Hello everyone, and welcome to Beat the Sun Rooftop Gardening even in harsh summers. So probably you had that 10-second lag. That was because I was checking out whether I can be seen on the broadcast page or not. So just when I saw myself, I started with my announcement. Okay, a hearty welcome to all of you, all those who are here. Um, Thanks for joining me, and let's rock the show. Okay, so I hope most of you can hear me and see me also. So if you can do that, just go to the chat and just type in hi. I've got a screen on my left, so occasionally if you see me uh, going to my left, that is because I just want to keep myself updated with what's happening on the chat. Okay, I hope I'm loud and clear. I It does take a bit of time for the comments to appear, so don't panic a bit. Right now, my name is Sai, and I'm a permaculturist. So, a couple of years back, me and my friends, when we were discussing on food sustainability, we wanted to become self-sustainable in food ourselves. And at that point of time, uh, what we found out was that the only way, or probably the best way in which you can become self-sustainable, is to basically grow your own food. Okay, and from that started uh, the setting up of all these gardens. So we started setting up gardens of all different sorts. We were setting up rooftop gardens, we were setting up balcony gardens, front yard gardens, backyard gardens, and today we even have a community garden. And during this whole process, we were trying to observe the nature, how nature works, and we were also trying to understand what the principles of permaculture teach us. And that, together with our readings on how gardening and agriculture is done in arid lands, in dry lands, we were able to find out what farmers and gardeners were doing there, so that we could apply similar strategies, especially in rooftop garden. So it is those strategies and those techniques that I would be wanting to discuss today. So how I'm thinking of this event is that I'll speak for about an hour or so, and after that we could have a quick question answer session where I'll try to answer your questions the best I can, right? So I can safely presume that most of you are gardeners, or at least enthusiasts, right? And it is really something commendable and laudable that you are trying to grow your own food for a multiple number of reasons. And most of the people in India and in other places are staying in cities. And what we are finding is that our cities are not at all productive when it comes to growing our own food. And what this does is this puts a lot of stress onto the rural folks, onto the village side, onto the farm side, and when many of us are staying here, food should be grown here. And this brings me to the concept of food miles, which I find really, really interesting as well as motivating. The point is, food takes quite a bit of distance from where it is grown for it to come to your plate, right? So that is called food miles. That is the distance traveled by food from the place of production, that would be a farm, to come to your house and be there available on your plate. Now, during this process, lots of costs are involved. There is a huge chain of transportation. Then there is loading and unloading and wastages associated with that. And what this does is that it puts enormous stress on the whole system, on the whole economics. It puts a lot of stress. And this was done for a particular vegetable. So for the case of brinjal or eggplant, they found out that for every eggplant that was being consumed, 27 eggplants were being wasted. Okay, so for one brinjal, 27 brinjals were being lost. I spoke about this in my last online event also, and this is something really not up to the mark, and it's very bad economics, it's bad agriculture, it's bad design, it's everything bad. There's nothing good about it. For example, for every one, if you're losing 27, I mean, that's horrible mathematics, right? But there is something else which touches me even more, and that is that, okay, we are wasting 27 brinjals, and today there is this mentality that most of us have that, okay, yeah, waste ho gaya, what's the big deal? Okay, yeah, we a bit is wasted. Every day we are wasting food, so what's the big deal? But I'll tell you what the big deal is. Just try to look at it from another point of view, and it's not just that 27 brinjals are being wasted, rather you are denying 27 people of brinjals, right? By consuming that one brinjal, you are actually denying 27 other people their share of brinjals. Now, in a food-stricken place like in our country, where food is premium, there are people who don't have enough food even to survive. I mean, I'm not even talking about malnutrition. People simply don't have food. So, in this kind of a situation, if we are wasting food and denying somebody else the right to have his own food, now that's not good. So that is something which I find really powerful, and that is what actually motivates me to grow my own food. And probably it might be helpful to those who are trying to start their garden right now. Okay, so um, since some of you might be in gardening, you would have noticed that the garden looks all right. It has good productivity. Everything is happening really well during the cooler months. But then what happens is we have summers. Okay, especially in a place like Hyderabad, where winters are not that extreme. Okay, you have extreme winters in Delhi where plants will not survive sometimes. But in place like Hyderabad and Bangalore, the cooler months are really productive. Okay, and your garden really does great. There is less amount of pest attack, and as a gardener you don't need to really be that intensive, and you're still getting good results. But suddenly summer comes, and once you have summer around the corner, what starts happening is you'll see that plants are simply not living. You see that plants are getting dry, plants slowly start to wilt. You see that they are getting dry from the leaf tips to the inside. So first the leaf becomes dry, and then it extends over to the stem, and finally what you are left with is probably just the stem, and sometimes not even that. And this is what usually happens to any garden, especially to a rooftop garden in summers, because the heat out there can really be bad, and that is not the kind of heat that you can measure with thermometers or any other kind of instruments, and I'll come back to this. But it's that bad. Now what happens is any living organism, you take us, okay, you take humans. If it is that hot, what would we do? We are definitely not going to stay outside for such a long period of time, until unless there's something really interesting happening. But otherwise, most of us would want to come to a shade, or probably switch on an AC or cooler or fan or something of that sort. And most of the living organisms, you see insects and ants and other things, they will also prefer to be in shade. Unfortunately, plants cannot move, and especially in a rooftop garden, they are where you have put them. And what that does is that when they are made to live in less than optimum conditions, that is, it's not an optimum temperature for it. It's very hot out there, and what that does is it starts stressing out the plant, just like it stresses most of us, right? There is forced function. You see that there is too much moisture evaporation from its leaves, and so the leaves want to droop so that they can offer less surface area. And the trees are plants are trying to do whatever they can to mitigate the effect, but it's just too much even for it. So if you have a continuous period of extremely hot sun, plants, it becomes difficult for them to survive, until unless we as gardeners are able to do something actively to make the situation better. And that is what this event is about. This event is about strategies and techniques by which you can actually not just make your plants live, but try to maintain the similar level of productivity. Right, now this can be done, and this is being done. The last poster did feature my rooftop, and that was a photo which was taken a couple of days back before the rains came. Right, so we had two extremely short showers, and I heard that yesterday there were some showers in Bangalore. But we know it's summer, and the heat is going to rise till about May, so better be safe, right? So with that, I know it's a Sunday morning, and if I leave you early, probably you'll go and do some gardening work. So with that in mind, I'll not blabber too much, and I'll get right into the core stuff of what I want to discuss. Okay, so here's coming up the first slide. Okay, a good potting mix solves more than half problems. I hope you could see it. A good potting mix solves more than half problems. Now, how many times have you visited any of the forums, organic forums, where people are trying to grow their own food, and they come up with all sorts of problems, like my plants are not doing well, the plants are turning yellow, there is water logging, or there is lack of water, I don't know what to do, there are ants getting into it, there's a lot of pest attack, and whatever the season might be, right, it need not be just summer. Okay, it need not be just summer. Any season, you take winter, you take rainy, you take summer, a good potting mix will solve lots and lots and lots and lots of issues, right? What happens is, if your potting mix is not right, you are not able to provide the plant with nutrients and with moisture when it requires. And what that does is, it stresses out the plant, just like hot temperatures are stressing it out. And what happens is, whenever a plant is stressed, it will go into a bit of a lag. Okay, it's just like us. We don't have proper food, and we don't have proper rest. What happens? We basically start getting ill. I mean, you contract something or the other. Some or the other virus is able to get into you and um, spoil your health. So the similar thing happens with plants, and it could be easily solved if you have a good potting mix. So that is the reason why you should have a very good potting mix, because a potting mix will solve more than just half the problems, right? Now, whenever you are trying to go for a potting mix, try to understand what a plant requires. Now, a plant requires nutrients, plant requires moisture, right? That is what it is expecting from the soil, and it is also expecting some kind of stability so that it doesn't topple over. And in a rooftop scenario, what we find is that vermicompost, coco peat, and a bit of red mud does all the trick. Now, I know that this can become a bit touchy issue, because everybody stands by whatever potting mix has worked for them, but this potting mix that I'm talking about, we have been using it quite consistently for the past 2.5 years, or probably 3 years, and it has never failed us. We have installed it at other places also, and we've got good results. So this is something which I would suggest if you are a newbie. If you are a veteran and you already have a garden and pretty much established, I won't ask you to change it. But if you are facing some of the problems like pests and other issues, do change it. Now, why am I talking about all these things? Now, what does this have to do with summer? I'll tell you. What happens is, in a regular grow bag of probably 18 centimeters, this is something which is very common. Okay, the most commonly available size, we put 1:1 ratio of vermicompost and coco peat. We add just a handful of red mud. Now, the particular reason why we are adding coco peat is coco peat retains a lot of water, right? Coco peat can expand and absorb a lot of water, and what it does is, whenever there is drying of coco peat in some part, okay, it is able to, through capillarity effect, it is able to send water across. So what happens is, you have a pretty much uniform mixture, and most importantly, you have water retention built into your potting mix. Now, this is how it happens in forests and other areas, other natural systems. This is what happens, and we are trying to mimic that by using a material like coco peat. Now, you do not have to use only coco peat. You could use rice husk or some other material. The point is, use some material uh, which is able to retain water, right? This is extremely critical because not only does it cut down on the water wastage, it also cuts down on the time that you require to water. You can have less number of watering events just by having a good mix, right? So just keep this in mind, that you need to have something in your potting mix which is able to hold water. Usually people have red mud, and there is a traditional combination of using red mud and dung. Now red mud doesn't really hold water, and when it holds water it usually leads to root rot, right? Both things you don't want. So use a material which is able to just hold on to water like a sponge and release the water whenever it is required. And we have found that vermicompost does it really well, and even rice husk does it. So keep be on the lookout for these kind of materials, so that if they are a part of your potting mix, you have actually made your plants a bit more safe during the summer months. Okay, now coming up to the next point, but before that I'll just show you a few photos of how we do it. So this is Sai Kalyan's terrace, and this is how we are creating mix. And if you can just see, this potting mix, it seems to contain only vermicompost, that is the dark bit, and coco peat, which is light brown. Okay, dark brown is vermicompost and light brown is this. Mud is usually in between these colors and it's difficult to see, but yeah, for normal size grow bag, this is what we use. So just keep that in mind, and try to have something which does the job well. Okay, now coming over to point number 2, and that is, okay, the point number 2 slide seems to be missing, or it has gone somewhere else. But yeah, the point number 2 is water early, right? Don't water late, water early. And why I'm telling this is, what happens is, many people prefer to water whenever they find it comfortable. Okay, so you get up a bit late and you think that, okay, let me water it around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, I can water it, what's the big deal? I mean, whenever I'm thirsty I can drink water. But no, that's not how it works for plants. You need to be a bit specific, especially during summer months, because what happens is, suppose you have a hot pan. Okay, you have a hot pan, you have a frying pan, hot pan, which you've just heated, and you drop a bit of water on it. What happens? The water actually gets repelled. Okay, you have bubbles coming out of it, and no water actually stays on that pan. So the similar thing happens when your potting mix becomes heated, right? When your medium is heated up, what happens is it starts repelling water instead of accepting it, right? And that's a normal tendency. If only your potting mix is at a decent enough temperature, is it going to accept water? So what happens is, when you are trying to water at some time when you have a lot of sun, what that does is, you have the medium repelling the water, so the water tries to stay on the top, it doesn't get soaked in, and then you have sun which is actually evaporating the water. So you feel you have watered, but still it's not got watered. That is one of the reasons. Now another reason is that plants get stressed when you are trying to water them in heat. Okay, now this is something which needs to be understood. What happens is, there is a stress build up due to the plant is already in stress because of that high heat, and you are trying to put in water. What that does is, it stresses it out even more. So you need to get to the plant, you need to give water to the plant before it is stressed out. So you need to do it right early in the morning. Right now, because it's April and it's pretty hot, I prefer doing watering at 6 o'clock, because not only is it better for the plants, it's also better for me, because after the sun gets in, it becomes difficult to watering. And you can also water a bit late, but just remember that it could lead to some kind of fungal attack. What happens is, during the night that water might stay on the leaf, and that could lead to some kind of fungal buildup. Uh, but if you are doing it somewhere around 5 to 6, what happens is there is still enough heat in the air which takes away that extra moisture. And sometimes you might prefer it doing both in the morning and the evening if you are not able to water it properly at one go. Okay, so that is completely up to you, but keep in mind that you need to water early or probably a bit late, right? But I would suggest watering it early in the morning, right? Now coming to the third slide, which you actually had a small glimpse of, and that is, yeah, mulch and mulch some more. Okay, uh, now how many of you know what mulch is? Most of the people do know what mulch is, but unfortunately, it's one of those concepts which I think is either misunderstood or people have forgotten it. I see acres and acres of broad-scale agriculture, where by some calculations it is shown that almost 70% of the area is not productive in a particular sense. I mean, nothing is actually growing there, and that is left exposed to sun. Right now. One of the first permaculturists that we ever met was Dr. Venkat, and he's no more with us in his body, but his teachings and what he told us about plants and soil and trees and all those stuff, it still remains with us because he gave a thorough foundation. We met him only 2 times, and he was pretty old even by that point of time, and we didn't meet him for a long duration, but still what he told still sticks to us. And I think he was probably one of the first person who told me that take care of the soil, and if soil is taken care of, it will take care of the plant. And this was a very strange equation. Now the kind of equation that we usually have in mind is every time we are concerned only about the plant. Okay, my plant is not giving enough yield, or my plant is having a pest attack, or my plant is wilting, or something. Every time it is related only to the plant, and nobody talks about the soil. Now, in a very metaphorical sense, you could say that soil is the basis for plant, right? You have hydroponics, but yeah, soil seems to be the basis for any plant. If there is no soil, probably there would not be any plants. And what you see in nature is that you have unclaimed spaces, right? And you have something or the other growing there. That's what we usually call as weeds, but something or the other is always growing on any vacant piece of land. The only place where nature is not able to grow anything would be those places where you are walking too much and compacting the soil, where nature is repeatedly trying to make it better and still not able to do. But otherwise, in most of the other places, you will find that nature is always trying to probably encroach, right? And you have something or the other growing. Now there is a reason behind this. It doesn't just happen for no reason. Okay, it's not just a whim and a fancy. It happens for a reason. Now what happens is, apart from other reasons, you have something growing on a piece of land because nature is trying to protect the soil from direct bombardment of sunlight and rainfall coming from the sky, right? It is through these plants, it is trying to prevent the direct attack of sunlight or of water, right? Now why is it doing this? Okay, there is a good reason for it. It is doing it because there is this concept of fertility, which we think that we put a few minerals and plant the soil becomes fertile. We can use your traditional nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus mix, and soil becomes fertile. No, they don't stand. It is as good as saying that, okay, you have vitamin D deficiency, okay, pop in a pill. You have vitamin B deficiency, pop in a pill. No, that's not how our body works in a particular sense, and that's definitely not how soil works. In soil, fertility is created by the action of microbes and fungus, right? And so nature knows that they need to be protected. So if you have direct bombardment of sunlight or direct fall of water, what happens is that their niche is disturbed, and because of that, what happens is they'll die off, and there'll be no fertility. So nature knows that. So what it does is, apart from other reasons, it puts out weeds so that it can preserve the soil so that the soil can become fertile and fertile. And that's why what happens is, after weeds you have some other things coming up, and then some other things coming up, and like that forest will nature will try to build in an ecosystem wherever it can find space. If it is undisturbed, it will try to uh, make some of the other ecosystem which really works for that area, for that region, for that climate, right? Now this is a similar concept that we use when we use mulch. Okay, now what is a mulch? I'll just show you a few examples, and along with that I'll tell you what each one of them is doing. Now this is how usually your rooftop garden would look. This is by the way Sai Kalyan's terrace garden, and if you see, he's growing tomatoes and brinjals, eggplants, and if you see, the tops are pretty much visible. What I mean to say is that the potting mix is visible. Now what happens is, because it is visible to us, light is falling on it, and because sunlight is falling on it, there will be evaporation. So what is going to happen over over a course of time is that this potting mix is going to become dry. So what is done is, I'll just show you. Okay, this is another top view of the same thing, and this is what he's doing, so that he's providing less surface area of the growing medium, that is the potting mix, so that there is less chance of evaporation, right? This is one of the things that he's using. I think this is a particular type of cardboard. This is another type of cardboard. So he has just left enough place for the plant to come out. The plant is not disturbed. For all practical purposes, the plant doesn't have any issues at all. However, he's trying to prevent the fall of direct sunlight or even direct water falling onto the potting material. And what that will do is, it is trying to build in fertility, right? So this is the concept of mulch. Now mulch need not only be cardboard, right? Again, don't get into the fixation that it only needs to be cardboard. It could even have been newspaper, and in this case, this is what I have done. What I have done is, I keep getting what people call as weeds. So what I do is, after they dry, or sometimes even when they are green, I just take them out and put it around the plant, right? And what that does is, it just performs the same function that the cardboard was doing. And here in this case, I'm trying to grow an air potato, and what I have done is that, surrounding the drum, surrounding the plant inside the drum, I have put wood shavings, right? So almost anything could be used. It's completely up to you how you are using it, right? So almost any metal can be used as mulch, and apart from the fact that it is protecting the soil, it is also providing nutrition to the soil, right? So when this organic matter, if you have put organic matter, if you have put inorganic matter, you could also use plastic, right? Plastic is also used, but if you are using organic matter, what is going to happen is that it is going to get decomposed, and during that process, it is going to again release nutrients. So it is more like you are, getting two in one, right? You pay for one and you get the other one free. Right. Now, while we are on the topic of mulch, I want to show something, another technique which could provide you additional benefits. Okay, here it comes. Edible mulches. Okay, now probably you would have guessed it, right? But still, I love the concept of having edible mulches. And what do I mean by edible mulches? Grow spinach. Lots and lots of spinach in the same grow bag, so that it provides the same function that your otherwise dead mulch was doing. And in that process, what is happening is, you are getting something to eat, and you're also protecting the soil. Now it need not only be spinach, although spinach is extremely easy to do. You could do it with methi, fenugreek, you could do it with coriander, and no need to go only for one variety. You could have gone for other varieties as well. Okay, you could have multiple crops in the same grow bag depending on their root size and other things. You could do that. A few more picks. So this is wheatgrass, right? And this is on Dwarkanath's terrace, DJ's terrace, where I think there is you have carrot, and next to it, I think you can just just barely observe it, but there is a cabbage growing in the same grow box, and you have spinach on the other side and more carrot. So they are all providing the same function. You don't need to actually put in mulch, because whatever is growing there is performing the same function, right? So this is one of the ways and one of the strategies and techniques in which you can cut down on the water which gets evaporated, right? So in mulch as well as in edible mulches, what is happening is that not only are you protecting the soil and giving it fertility, by providing less area for evaporation, you are again conserving water, right? And by conserving water, you are actually making the plant not go weak, not wilt away even in the harshness of summer, right? So just remember these two things. I've talked about three things till now, and all these four things are really really easy, and these four should be done. Okay, now irrespective of I mean the other techniques, these are the ones which I think that you can definitely do right now. Okay, you have some piece of newspaper or something of that sort. Just go and cover your plants if they are exposed, and I'm telling you that you will be surprised how much moisture is maintained. And especially if you are using a potting mix which is similar to what I suggested, you'll actually be amazed that not just on your rooftop, even in broad scale agriculture, it saves so much moisture. The soil is so better, and especially with mulch decomposing, you have lots of fertility. Right, now coming over to something which again is observed on Dwarkanath's terrace. Large is equal to more. This is the fifth strategy, right? I'll tell you what. Now this is Dwarkanath's terrace. I think he posted a photo of this. This was during the initial stages of his rooftop garden setup, and this was one of those foggy days and cold foggy days. And if you see that he's got large grow boxes. Now what large grow boxes do is they have more material, right? Large means more, they have more material, and what this does is you can put in more amount of your potting mix, and therefore you have more amount of water. Now more than that, what this does is, because of the depth and because in the way in which it has been designed, you have more nutrients available to the plant, and so your rooftop or your terrace becomes much more forgiving. See, I've always maintained that although rooftop garden is extremely important and it needs to be done, it is according to nature something bit artificial, right? It is not as if you are actually doing gardening on land. And what this does is that if you just observe your plants on your terrace, and if you have a garden, if you just observe it, you don't water your terrace garden for a couple of days and you see you feel as if the plants are going to die, whereas the same thing does not happen on ground. Now this is where it gets interesting. That is because the roots of the plant are able to go a bit further, and they are able to take in water from one or the other source from the land, in the land, right? Now this is the advantage that you have if you have a bigger area. That's why if you have a bigger bed, you'll always have plants which are a bit more stronger and bit more resilient, right? What happens is that even when there is a lack of watering event, still they are able to tap into some of the other moisture which is there in one of the corners. Otherwise what happens is they are not able to get to some of the moisture otherwise in your rooftop if you have a small growing bag, and because of that you might need to water more. So just keep that in mind. If you can do something, try to have a bigger box, because what that does is it makes your system more resilient. And even in summers, what you will find is that even if you miss watering a couple of times, plants do not suffer much. Sometimes they do not suffer at all. You actually don't have to water them, at least in our cases, for about 2 to 3 days if you have if you are doing deep watering properly, right? So just keep this in mind. If you can, go for big boxes or some of the other ideas which you see in OTG or Intipanta. Many ideas are there where people are trying to have expanded places where they are trying to grow, and that is something good. That makes the system more resilient. Now coming over to the sixth point, and yeah, this features my terrace. Okay, so now I really like this point, because finally my rooftop gets to feature. So I had one very bad experience 2 or 3 years back. Most of you would have seen that Kerala Krishi this thing farm, not farm, rooftop garden. It's very popular. It has been shared many number of times, and that was also one of the first things which we saw, and we were really impressed by how he had put his shade net and this and that, and it was a really beautiful system. So the first time I put my shade net, what happened was, because as I said, we stay in suburbs of Hyderabad. We don't have many buildings out here, huge buildings out here as you have in the city. So what happens is, whenever you have those isolated cases of strong winds, it is much more stronger here, because there is nothing to prevent the wind from coming. And what happened was that I had metal poles on my terrace, and they actually got bent. I mean, that was a sight to see. It was really horrific, and you could see syntax tanks falling down and all those things. It was a really bad event which happened, and that was when I had to reset my whole terrace garden. So this time I planned it a bit differently. I got a few changes made, but most importantly, I'll tell you as I show you the pictures. Most importantly, what that does is, yeah, this is my house as you can see it from outside, and that is my rooftop garden. There's one more close up, and yeah, this is how it is under a shade net. Now if you just look closely, you would be able to see patches of light. Okay, I hope you can understand, there are patches of darkness and patches of light, and just look at the color difference. Right, if you look at the color difference, you'll understand that the intensity of light can be really high. And this is not at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, this is at 10 o'clock. And just imagine that if that shade net was not there. I hope most of you do know what a shade net is. A shade net is basically a net which provides you shade, right? And it is easily available. You might have seen them in your dhabas, which you find it in on highways. Okay, they usually have shade net because it allows air to come, but it protects you from sunlight. Now if you just look at how it is affecting my rooftop, is it is actually preventing a lot of sunlight from entering. Now my plants are not suffering due to lack of sunlight. Actually, this kind of sunlight is good enough for them. More importantly, my terrace, my rooftop is not getting hot. Right, now I'll come back to this point later, but having a shade net, what it does is, it again reduces the intensity of the sunlight, and because the intensity of sunlight is decreased, what that does is, as you can see in this picture. Oh, by the way, here is the cabbage picture, and I was talking about the intensity of the light. You can see that in the shaded area of, I hope the colors are coming in properly on your monitor, but if on the shaded area of the cabbage, you can see that there is still water left from the watering, whereas on those areas where you have sunlight falling, it is extremely bright. Right, so that is a kind of similar thing which a shade net does for you. It provides you areas where you have good amount of shade, and because of that, what happens is, again, your plants are not stressed. Secondly, the amount of water absorption is also reduced. Water evaporation, okay, evaporation of water is reduced, and that means you have a better system overall. Now this is another top view, and what I want you to notice here is again the same thing. Just look at those places where there is no shade net, and just look at the intensity of the light, and look at that area where there is shade net. It seems as if it's some kind of a dark room. Okay, and just one last more, just to show you that yeah, it can get really hot. And this time what I did was that I put shade net only on the top. I didn't put it on the sides, because when it was on the side, it was actually pulling away my whole structure. It was pulling down the whole structure whenever there was a strong wind event. We again had one, and at that point of time I was trying to experiment with a different kind of trellis, and that too didn't work. So I thought was best is always to go with coconut rope. And so what I did was I just have shade net on the top, but on the sides I don't have it, so that in case of any wind, the wind can go, but the structure remains stable, right? And again, just keep this in mind that if you have shade net, it is able to really help you. Okay, now a close on the topic of shade net. There is another point and another strategy which has been wonderfully implemented by one another permaculturist, Yoga Nagendra. I'll just show you that. Trellis. Okay, now this is very common, but again, I see very few people doing it. Very few people doing it. Everybody knows the benefit of trellis, but nobody does it. And you just want to see the benefit of trellis? Okay, just look at this picture, right? This how good your trellis can be. Of course, whatever is growing on the trellis has not been planted on the rooftop. It is coming from downstairs. This is on first floor, right? But just look how dark it can get inside, and still there will be production, right? Although Yoga was not very active in his rooftop garden at that point of time. I think he was probably out of station for a month or so. But what you will see is that trellis is providing wonderful cover, and if you just look at the darkness which is there beneath the trellis, you will see that it's wonderful, right? If you have anything growing underneath, and by the way, don't think that nothing can grow underneath. Probably this picture does not represent that, but the common thing which is taught to you in schools, that you need to have at least 8 hours of sunlight for plants to grow well, or some 4 to 5 hours, or some kind of strange figure is given. That is not for India. That is not for tropics at all. You have to keep in mind that most of these textbooks and most of these gardening books are written by Western gardeners for themselves. And if you are just trying to blindly copy it, just like we have been doing quite a lot of stuff, what happens is it creates havoc. If you keep a plant outside for 8 hours in summer, I can bet you it is going to die. Right, until unless you have taken adequate precautions, it is not going to survive, because that's too much of heat for it. Right. So what happens usually is, and I'll be talking about this after this event also. I'll be showing you a small video. What happens is, plants actually they see to it that their leaves turn in a particular way so that they can reject sunlight. I mean, they don't need to absorb the sunlight. And because of that, what happens is, anything which is growing underneath, once the trellis has enough sunlight, whatever is growing underneath the trellis will start getting enough amount of sunlight for it to grow. Of course, certain things might not grow. Just do a bit of trial and testing. I don't think it's such a big deal, but lots of stuff will grow, and that is what you will realize, that you can still grow it, because just search upon terms like photosaturation. After a particular amount of time, plants no longer take any sunlight which is coming. They don't require it, they don't take it, they actually start releasing it. And in your PDC, or if you have already done your PDC, you would be knowing that plants actually they become a bit transparent, right? So that they can actually let go of the light which is falling on them. So all these kinds of interesting things happen when plants have had enough of sunlight. Of course, if they are having less amount of sunlight, they are not going to do this. But what you realize is that in a place like India, where you have, I mean, in tropics where you have lots of sunlight, you will find plants growing under plants. You will be finding plants growing under trees, and you will be having lots of stages of plants growing one underneath the another, and that is possible only in places like tropics, where you have too much sunlight, literally too much. You actually want to get away from sunlight, not into it, right? So this is one more thing. Keep this in mind. If you can build a trellis, it could be not just horizontal trellis, it could be a vertical trellis as well. Have some of the other kind of trellis. What you'll find is that things will grow on your trellis, veggies will grow on the trellis, some kind of creeper, and you'll be providing shade to the ones which are beneath it. So this is another excellent strategy. It might seem that it involves a bit of work in constructing all that trellis and all that, but believe me, it's not that complicated, and once you put your mind to it, you will be able to do it, and you will find that you are actually increasing your growing area by 2 times, and in that process you are actually also making your system much more adaptive to summers. So you are getting the required shade, and you are also getting your things growing. Now you might have this question that I put a shade net and why I'm not doing the same thing. I am actually doing the same thing. If you see, my creepers are still on the sides. They are still on the vertical trellis. They still need to come to the top. And the air potato that I'm growing, that actually gives, I mean, it grows vigorously, it grows prolifically. It can actually climb over your papayas and all that if it is put in ground. So one of the main reasons for growing that is I got a bit late, or probably that was the time it needs to be put. But what happens is very soon you'll find it going over to the trellis and providing me with the shade, and at that point of time I'm going to remove my trellis, right? So this is more of an establishment thing. You could have it as a permanent structure, that's completely up to you how you want to do it, but the point is have something which provides you shade. And coming up is something which you would have never thought. Okay, shade building. Okay, now we were talking about shade nets which provide shade. Now what do you call a building which provides shade? Well, I'm calling it a shade building. So there is a very interesting story attached to it. Okay, not interesting, I'm going to make it interesting, right? So you have two buildings which you can see on the left of the screen. I think there is no mirroring happening. Okay, on the left of the screen, the tall building, that belongs to a permaculturist. Okay, that belongs to Sai Kalyan. And on the right, the building with that black gate, that belongs to a permaculturist called Upendra, right? Now these two are permaculturists, so they don't compete, they cooperate, and their sense of cooperation goes well beyond the normal means. Okay, they actually make even their houses cooperate with each other. How do they do that? If you just see on the middle of the road, you can see some shade. I think you can now see it much better. Now this is the afternoon come evening sun. So what happens is, because of the sun path, and remember, this is something which you should do, look at the sun path when you are designing your garden, but more on that later. Okay, so you see here what is happening is that most of the west sun, that is your afternoon, post-afternoon and evening sun, is getting shielded by Sai Kalyan's terrace, his building. So it is getting, it is shielding Upendra's terrace. So what Upendra does is, wherever he has shade, he's trying to grow most of his stuff. And this is one of the file pictures when he was still setting up his garden. And you see how beautifully, sorry for that, how beautifully he's growing things in the shade, right? He's just kept his planting material out in the sun, but whatever is growing in shade. And this is a wonderful system of cooperation that exists only between permaculturists. So the point here is, sun, too much of sun is always bad, right? This is what we can agree on, especially when we are in the context of rooftop gardening. This is what we can agree, that too much of sun is bad. But what happens is, your evening, your post-afternoon sun is worse than your morning sun. Now I'll tell you why. What happens is, the morning sun comes after the cool of the night, right? It comes after the cool of the night. So what happens is that slowly you have the sun rising up, and apart from just the direct sunlight, your air is also getting heated up slowly, right? The air gets cooled down during the night, and that slowly gets heated up. After a particular amount of time, let's say after 12 o'clock, after 1 o'clock, there is too much of sun, because sun is literally on top of your head, and the air has also become hot. So that is like, again, that double dhamaka. What happens is, you have your sunlight falling as well as the air getting heated. Now this creates havoc for your plants. So protecting yourself in places like India, in places like tropics, you want to get protected from the west sun, right? No two things about it. You want to get protected from the west sun by hook or by crook. And if you're a permaculturist, of course, you can design your buildings in such a way that the shade of one protects the other, right? So and why am I mentioning this technique is that, suppose you have even an unfriendly neighbor, okay, if his building is doing something good for you, do accept it with your arms open. And more importantly, suppose you have some kind of a penthouse on your rooftop, okay, try to plant in the shade of that, right? Make sure that some of the other sunlight is reaching it, during some or the other part of the day. But if it is in the shade of that, you will find that the plants will be more resilient. They'll be more strong because there'll be less evaporation, right? Whatever we are trying to discuss here is to minimize water loss, right? And at the same point of time, protect the plant from direct sunlight, continuous exposure to direct sunlight, right? So this is another thing which you can keep in mind. If you have some shade, that shade could be anything. It could even be the shade of any of drums or anything you have on top of your rooftop. You have anything which can give shade, do accept it and try to have your grow bags and your growing containers in that shade. Okay, so this was shade building. Now coming over to the next point. Okay, now this is again something interesting, and let me just show you. Closer the better. This is the 9th strategy. Now this is how I see people planting whenever I look at photographs, a few photographs on most of the gardening groups. Okay, now most of these might be novices, so please don't take it personally, but what happens is when you are trying to grow your containers, grow in your containers, and these containers are kept apart by this large distance, what happens is you are actually allowing sun to hit it from as many sides as possible, right? And what is happening is, if you remember that scene in Gladiator, I think if you have seen that movie Gladiator, when you are an individual, what happens is you are getting attacked from all the sides. But if you have a kind of a circle kind of a pattern, what happens is you are not getting attacked from all the sides, and especially you can have your most valuable plant in the center, right? Now I'll show you a picture regarding this so that you can understand it better. But what is important is that don't separate your plants. I know that some people try to separate their plants because they think that pests can move about freely. Yeah, that is one concern which you need to think of, and for that what I would suggest is that you try to take some other measures which we usually discuss in our gather to garden sessions, where you try to have a few pest, I mean something like marigolds which will attract pests but protect your other plants, some kind of a trap crop kind of a system, have different smells and all those stuff, but more on that later. You could design your rooftop in a way where your elements are working with each other, interacting with each other productively. So what we do is on our terraces, what we do is we put like this. Okay, now miraculously you have actually increased the area of growing, because now you can put in more number of containers in the same area, and what happens is your the ones in the middle are definitely protected from the sideways sun, and those which are on the border, those plants which are on the border, they are also protected at least from a few sides, right? Now that could be your choice of how you which plants you are really careful of and which plants can tolerate heat. Now based on that you could actually design how your guild, okay, I'm going to call it a guild, how your guild is going to be. So think of it, think of how these kind of things are happening. Now these are I know these are kind of simple issues, but what happens is we miss them out, and when we miss them out, what happens is lots of bad stuff happen. I don't want to reveal that right now. I'll reveal it probably after 1 or 2 slides later on. Okay, so try to arrange your plants in a particular pattern or in a particular configuration, so that not only are they beneficial to each other in terms of plants, I mean in terms of their interaction as a plant, but also they are able to protect each other from evaporation. Okay, so what you will see is that one of the leaf of brinjal does have, eggplant does have huge leaves, so it is going to actually give some kind of protection to the plant nearby. So that is in that way it is again going to act as a mulch, right? So all these kind of things start happening when you are looking at your elements in a combined form, rather than seeing them as isolated things or events which need not be combined. Okay, now coming over to the next thing real fast, and this is steroids. Okay, not steroids. I'm not talking about any kind of steroids which involve NPK in that elementary form, but I'm talking about providing nutrition. Okay, so how do you provide nutrition to plants? So this is one of the ways in which you provide nutrition to plants, and this is compost tea, right? In a similar way, you could have vermi wash. In compost tea, actually, you are again increasing the microbial activity, and when this is poured onto your plants, plants really love that. And what that does is, for those who have used it, would definitely know that it really brings about a change in the plant, right? And just a second here, if you can see, the shade of the drum is actually protecting a few grow bags out there. So this is what I was talking about. If have something or the other which can provide shade, okay, and it could be some an element like your compost tea drum, which doesn't seem to be a part of the growing system, but see how beautifully when it interacts with the system, it really gives benefit to all, right? Now just coming back to the topic of nutrition. Now why am I talking of nutrition? Okay, there is something which John Jevons, he's a great propagander of grow biointensive, and he tells this, and I really loved it. He says that when plants don't have enough nutrition, right? I mean, plants are taking in water in the hope of getting nutrition. Now, if they are not getting that nutrition, they'll keep on taking more and more water and releasing it to the atmosphere. So, if you are potting mix and you're nutrition maximizing by putting in compost tea and worm wash, those things, if you are using those techniques along with this, what happens is that because your soil is fertile, whatever water is taken by the plants, it has lots of nutrition, and it is for that sake of nutrition that it is taking in water. And what happens is, because it is getting that, it is not going to take excess water. So this is something which comes across as a revelation, that in poor soils, you keep on putting water, the plant still doesn't take in that water because it's a poor soil. It's actually looking for fertility. It's looking for something, some kind of nutrient which it is not able to find, right? So nutrition maximizing becomes extremely important. It is something which we usually do not associate as a summer strategy, but it is a very good summer strategy. So try to have vermi wash and compost tea setups, so that you are able to give the nutrition to the plants. More than that, I mean, alongside with that, what it also does is that compost tea, for example, also has some pesticide like qualities. So what it is going to do is, it's some of the surface foliar, it acts as a foliar spray, so that you have some kind of surface infection or some kind of surface microbes or insects which are irritating the plant, stressing out the plant. It also gets rid of that. So it has a dual function, and in both the functions what you will find is it's a very good summer strategy, but often overlooked. People really do not understand the value of compost tea and vermi wash. What people think is that, yeah, let's put in some urea or something of that sort, but they don't understand that although when you compare it in a lab, you'll find that urea contains more nutrition. That's not the way a plant wants it. So you will find that plants with in natural systems, getting natural feed, getting natural fertilizers will work much better than any of your artificial ones. So just bringing about this comparison so that you understand that nature devises beautiful ways to protect itself. We just need to know that, right? So this is one important point which is very hard to find, and so keep this in mind and use it in your garden. Okay, now coming over to 11th point. Now this is again very important, right? Protect what matters the most, right? Protect what matters the most. Now in all this discussion, somehow we have got into the impression that again that we need to take care of the top side of the plant, right, and not the bottom half of it. whereas it's the bottom half, that is the roots, which are actually giving rise to that beautiful greenery that you see in your garden. Now, you just saw that slide. I'll just show you and I'll tell you what happens. Now, this is another photo of my rooftop, and you see that the shaded area is where the shade net is installed, whereas the bright area is where the shade net is not there. But here I'm going to tell you another important thing. What is happening to this plant, to the grow bags, is not only are they getting heat from the top, that is through sunlight, they are also getting bounce light, which is reflected from the roof. Right. Now this makes it a doubly difficult system for the plants. Now what happens is, that's why I was telling initially that it's very difficult to assess temperature, and I said that I'll be talking about it, and this is what I want to tell you. I did a small experiment. Okay, I went and bought a room thermometer, and I wanted to find out what is actually the temperature on my rooftop. Because I already had this in mind, and so I wanted to just check that what is the temperature on my rooftop, and I brought it and I put it, and it was showing temperatures going above 50 degrees, and that thermometer could go only till 50. And I thought maybe it's wrongly calibrated or something of that sort, because it was not a very expensive piece of equipment. It's something which I got for 80 bucks, and I had my doubts on it. So I came back down online and I started searching that how to find temperature um, on my rooftop. And in the meanwhile, I was also calling up my friend, and he said that, yeah, see, it's a room thermometer. You're not supposed to keep it in open places. And I still could not understand. I was like, yeah, if the temperature is constant, whether it's a room or not, the thermometer doesn't know, right? Whether it's a room or not, what's the problem? And then when I was searching through the internet, they started saying that calculation of temperature is a very, very extremely challenging job, and most of the times you're not even sure whether the result is correct or not. That is because if you are keeping your thermometer outside directly in view of sun, it is going to show you all kinds of absurd readings. It's not going to be correct at all, because sun gives huge amounts of power. So it is going to play havoc with your thermometer. So you have to keep it in a place where it's not in direct sunlight, but the ambient temperature is somewhat constant. But again, the same person was also telling that, see, there are certain surfaces which absorb more heat or which reflect more heat. So depending on that, your temperatures are going to be different based on where you are putting your thermometer. And so the only test which I thought was practical and at least applicable to my terrace was just to find out how I was feeling in the terrace in different parts of my own rooftop. Okay, now at the end of the day, that was the only thing that I thought was worthwhile. And when I was standing on my cemented roof, and this is at 11 o'clock, okay, it was extremely difficult for me to stand for more than 10 seconds. More than 10 to 20 seconds I could not stand because it was so hot, and you could literally feel that hot air was coming up. You could actually feel the movement of it, whereas inside the shade net it was not like that. But the point being, your roots, right, which are near the roof, which are near the terrace roof, they are getting doubly hit by the sunlight. Right, so whatever heat which I could feel standing on that cement bit, which was not protected by the shade net, the roots were getting extremely hot because this air was also contributing to the heat. Now what happens when the roots get damaged? The plant does not survive. So you see, this was one thing which I could also observe, that when I was touching the sides of my grow bags, they were really hot. Now if they are hot, they're definitely transporting some of the heat inside, and so what happens is that my potting material is also becoming hot, and it is further transmitting that heat to the roots, and because it was transmitted to the roots are also becoming hot. And what happens then? The plant gets stressed, right? And it becomes difficult for the plant to survive. So this was one thing which actually Dwarkanath told us earlier. And but still it was a revelation, just to think of it in this way, that the most important thing about a plant again is the root. If you are able to take care of the root, and root does not have any infections or disease, or it's in a very good potting mix with optimum temperatures, it works well. And that is what happens on ground. You have your subsoil temperatures pretty much optimized. You don't have them wavering, or you don't have it beyond a certain range. So what happens that inside that range, the roots are able to um, actually perform really well. But whereas in your grow bags during this summer, they get really hot, the grow bag becomes hot, your potting metal becomes hot, so your roots become hot, and so your plants, you are probably watering the whole day, but still the roots are hot. So what do we do about it? That's the next question, right? So this is okay. There is 1 second. I do want to show you this photo, and I'll just trace it. Okay. Right. Just see this. Right. Now you see what Kalyan is doing. He is putting those empty Kinley cartons to good use. Right. So by putting it around your grow bags, he is actually preventing that excess heat from reaching the roots. Right. So Kinley, that cardboard container, is what is going to first take the first hit of heat. And that's why what is going to happen is that although it might become hot, it will take it quite some time to transmit the heat to the growing bag, and therefore from growing bag to potting mix to the roots, it's a long chain, and it's probably night by that point of time, so no harm. So this is a very simple strategy. Most of you would be having some of the other kind of cardboards or anything. Okay, now again, don't restrict yourself to just thinking of cardboard. You could have anything which is performing the same function, but that does not mean you put some kind of a cement structure around it and so that the whole thing becomes hot. No, try to have some bad conductor of heat outside there so that it is able to perform this function well. So this is again another very important thing. If you protect what matters the most, you are going to get a good yield. Your productivity is going to increase. Right. Now windbreak. Right. I want to tell this. Can you see this? Yeah, windbreak. Now I want to have some kind of a dramatic entry for it. Sorry, I forgot that. Okay, what happens is, this is again one of the things which is not very commonly discussed, but if only you have learnt more about permaculture, that you will really appreciate it. What happens is that till now we were talking about how sun affects and how sun hots, and how because of sun we have the whole discussion was centered on sun. Now what sun does is, sun actually heats up the air. Okay, this we came to this point. Now that heated air, or that wind, also takes away the moisture. Right. So you have hot air coming, it comes near the surface of your grow bag, and it takes away the heat. It takes away the coolness, that is the water, and that heat actually takes away the water, and because of that, what happens? You again have a dry growing bag. Right. So windbreak, that is something which prevents the wind from coming onto your grow bag, especially near the surface where it is more prone, is really important. So now think of the strategy. You are trying to protect the roots, and you are also trying to protect the surface, not just from the sunlight, but also from the hot air. So you could have an individual windbreak the way it's done here. Right. You have I hope you can now see the picture. Right. You have a plastic container which is surrounded by a newspaper, which Bill Mollison says is putting bad news to good use. Okay, so you have it surrounded by this newspaper, and what this newspaper is going to do is, it is going to stop the hot air from reaching the surface and taking away the moisture from the top. And if you have this system, this kind of a newspaper, in conjunction with the previous technique, that was trying to protect the roots through that carton or that cardboard, what happens is you have your roots protected, you have your shoots protected, you also have your soil protected. So it's a very good protection system. Okay. Right. So this was strategy number 12. We are coming pretty close to it. Please don't get bored or disturbed. We are coming pretty close to the end of it, and you can actually start putting your, start thinking of your questions. But just wait for these last three techniques. These are again rock solid techniques, which not many people talk of. Okay. What happens is, most of the times we are trying to grow stuff which should not be grown at that point of time. Okay. And because that, what happens is that our plants suffer, because that is not the optimum range of temperature or conditions or climate for it to grow. And we are actually stressing it just by asking, just by putting it right. It need not get stressed additionally. Just by the whole dynamics of the system, it gets stressed. So this brings me to the point that if you have things like succulents, right, you have things like Malabar spinach, right, or Portulaca oleracea, which is Gangavailu. Yeah, Gangavailu in Telugu. If you have that, what happens is they have thick leaves, right? Just like, think of cactus, right? It has this thick structure. It has a succulent structure. Inside it, it stores water. Outside, it has that rubbery feeling. And what happens is it has that store of temperature. Now, what that store of water, sorry. Now, what that store of water does is it provides stability to the plant so that it can survive in places like in places where you have extreme temperatures, like in desert. You have cactus in desert. So similarly, don't think that your rooftop is much different from a desert-like system, because you have extreme amounts of heat, right? And so you need to also take that into consideration and grow something, something which is more appropriate, right, to the kind of climate that you are having on top of your rooftop. What that assures you, okay, that assures you that those plants are going to survive and are going to be productive, right? I'll just show you. This is again the last one, again on Kalyan's terrace, and this is how that windbreak is working. But yeah, grow succulents, and this is what I was talking about. Now just look how beautiful this Malabar spinach is. Okay, you can't find a single dry leaf here. And similarly for Portulaca oleracea, right, it has thick leaves, and because of thick leaves, what starts happening is that it is able to survive much better. And by the way, this is one of the edible uncultivated crops of this region, and that again leads to that the native edible things are going to perform much better. So which brings me to 14th point: when in Rome, be a Roman. Okay, when you are in a particular type of climate, in a particular type of environment, try to grow what grows best there. So in each region you have those native types types of different vegetables. You have a particular tomato which might grow very well in your area, or that particular type of eggplant which grows very well. By the way, there are many different types of tomatoes and brinjals and okras and whatnot. Okay, don't just restrict yourself to what you see in the market. In the market, they are only growing those varieties which are determinate and give, in a particular sense, market type of yields, right? Whereas there the point is not on nutrition, the point is not on diversity, the point is not on climatic suitability. They are just trying to grow what works best in the market, unfortunately. But as a rooftop gardener, you have the power to grow what you think works best. So try to find that out, and even in your garden downstairs, if you have one, try to grow those varieties which are native and which are local to there. And to this I will just like to add one small thing: try to get used to local foods. For example, amaranthus grows really wild here. You have, as I was showing, Portulaca oleracea. Then you have another 4 or 5 things which I find every day on roadsides. Now, those things are growing in spite of nobody watering them. So they are those hardy varieties which are going to survive your rooftop. So make it a habit also to eat those things, so that you have your garden which is more productive in actual sense. Okay, something growing which you are not eating doesn't make much sense, right? So you are trying to have an edible rooftop garden, try to grow that. And coming to the last point, um, this is something for which I wanted to do a small demo, but unfortunately yesterday I was really tied up in some other work and got really tired, and that's probably one of the reasons why I'm still searching for words as I speak. Okay, so the last thing is, we were talking about roots, right? And we were talking about how we need to protect what is more important. We also know that roots are the ones which require water, right? Then why are we pouring water on top of the container? Did you get my question? It's roots which require watering, right? So why are we watering the top of the container when the roots are not there? The roots are somewhere underneath. You understand this kind of thinking? This is the kind of thinking which brings unique ideas in people, and that's why a couple of years back, I think probably not too old, people start thinking of self-watering containers, where you have a mechanism by which you can provide water to the roots, directly to the roots. The water which you are providing to the roots is not exposed to outside, so there is no chance of evaporation. Secondly, if you have your appropriate medium setup, water will be taken only when the plant requires it. So no case of overwatering, and by self-watering you are also reducing the amount of human effort required every day, right? There is a principle called capillary effect. It's called wicking. Okay, almost every Indian will be knowing this, because most of us have diyas, lamps. Okay, those lamps where you have that cotton thing, and you light a matchstick so that it burns. Now what happens there is, the wick, okay, that cotton thread kind of a thing, is down, and the top does not have access to the oil directly. So what happens is, the oil is actually sucked from the bottom to the top against gravity, right? This is what is special. The liquid goes up against the gravity, and this is called capillary effect, or wicking. So because of that, what happens is, you can actually transport something from down below to top, and that is supposed to be one of the reasons how plants get their water. Okay, plants take their water from the roots, and they are able to distribute it throughout the trunk and the leaves and the branches and all those things. Now that is made possible only because of capillary effect, and by putting that capillary effect into work, putting that into working in your rooftop garden by designing your own self-watering containers, you can actually have a very good system where you don't need to water too often. The plant takes care of its watering needs. So basically you are making the plant a bit independent. You say, yeah, I have given you water, now take whenever you want to do it. Whenever it is getting below that level, I'm going to come and water it. So now that is one thing which I'll be doing a short demo on probably a couple of days later. But that is again a very good rooftop gardening strategy. Like these, there are many more strategies. I have discussed 15. The last one was the 15th number. I have discussed 15 strategies. I'm sure you would come up with a lot more, but the most important point is, start putting them into practice, because then you will see that you no longer have to worry about your garden, especially at the time when your vegetables are very highly priced. And because these kind of strategies are not even applied in broad acre, in broad scale, in farms, these kind of strategies are not employed, what happens is, growing your food in summer becomes a challenge even for them. So they have less production, and because they have less production, because of the normal concept of demand and supply, what happens is, there is too much demand, the supply is less, the prices rise, and there is no food. Whereas you could have a pretty much abundant system even in summers, right? You could also make it compete with winters. I mean, you could have that kind of productivity. and that is possible if you apply few of these techniques, apply them appropriately. You could apply more than one, this goes without saying, and just try to design your garden. So here I was talking about some of the things. I was talking about windbreaks. Now you don't need to have an individual windbreak for each pot. You could have a windbreak for your whole garden because your whole garden is suffering, right? So think of it in that sense. You have your sun moving. Now have you ever observed how the sun moves in your area? Have you ever tried to see that? And have you designed your garden based on those things? Now these are the kind of things which are extremely important to a permaculture. The word design is the bread and butter of a permaculture. A good design ensures abundance, ensures sustainability, ensures resilience, ensures everything. Whereas a bad design will have so many failure points that you can never ever make the system stable. You try to make it stable in one place, it becomes worse in another place. It's the same carpet example that I was telling. You have a carpet which does not fit a room. You try to make it fit at one place, it is going to go berserk in the other place. So don't do that to your rooftop garden. Try to design it. Try to think very logically how you can satisfy the plant's needs, how you can provide it with the correct nutrition, how you can provide it with shade, with proper amount of sunlight, with proper amount of water, and basically try to be productive the whole year round, not just the summers, right? So with that, I'll come to I think I have already taken 1.5 hours, approximately 1.5 hours. I'll stop my event, I mean what I wanted to say, and let's have a quick question answer session. This video, as I said, is going to be available, so if some of you are in a hurry, you can always come back and question on in the comment section later on. So that's not going to be an issue at all. As and when I see it, and as and when I can answer it, and if I know the answers, I'm definitely going to answer that. But essentially what I want to communicate was that these strategies are available. Just because many are not available of these strategies, they are not able to make their rooftop garden productive. And I can assure you that as on today, if you don't have your rooftop garden but you want to set it up, you set it up on these principles, you are going to start getting production very soon. So just think on those lines. No need to wait for the rains and or for some 1 or 2 months to do it. Start small, start with 5 bags, start growing things like Malabar spinach, probably one mirch, okay, and a few tomatoes, something of that sort. Just have something which is resilient, just start growing, use some of these techniques, and I'm pretty sure that you will have a very good harvest and a very good yield and a very good system in place, right? So shall we have question answers? I know it takes some time for the chat to appear, and okay. Yeah, I'm waiting. I'll wait for some time, but last time I got a bit fed up because the comments were not coming. I think in that aspect YouTube needs to improve. Okay, I think somebody saying concise and interesting presentation, so I hope the end of my presentation has been heard by all. I'm waiting for questions, guys. Are you there? Or are you planning to submit your questions later on? Or is it more like that break that you get when you really want to rush away? After a class, everybody wants to go home. Yeah, Venkata Srinivas Garu, no problem at all. Do watch the full video, and you can ask your questions whenever you can. Hi to Naganand Naresh Garu, to Ran Hill. That's a few names that I see in this chat. Hi to Lakshmikant Rajagaru as also, and of course a big hi to Sai Kalyan, to DJ, to Upendra, to Anuradha, and to everybody else who logged in. What I'll do is I'll stop my presentation here, and the easiest way to contact me um, regarding this um, would be regarding this event would be to put your questions in your on this YouTube video. But however, if you are trying to contact me otherwise, I'll just share a small picture with you. Yeah, my website is gardensofabundance.org. It might look a bit wacky right now because I was actually trying to redesign it, but then I just didn't get time. Just wait for a couple of days. My Twitter handle is at gardens of abndnc. Then my email address would be hello@gardensofabundance.org. I am on Facebook. Actually, rather, me and my friends are on Facebook at facebook.com/Gardens of Abundance. And of course, the YouTube channel name is Gardens of Abundance. Now, one small thing. I know all these techniques and strategies not because I devised them, but because a group of my friends, all permaculturists, um, we actually practically tried all these things. As you saw, that some of these things are being done on one of my friends' terrace and all that stuff. That is because all of us are together. So you can contact any one of us. You could probably I'll share the names as well on Gardens of Abundance. You can contact any one of us if you have any kind of queries, and a big thanks to them, because it's only because of the collective hard work that we have been able to come up with so many strategies, so many workable strategies, and most of them practically implemented. I think, yeah, all of them have been practically implemented, and that's where the beauty of the system is, right? You are always welcome to come and visit us. Visit our gardens. You can, that's anytime you can come. Just try to let us know, send us a quick Facebook message or something, so that we can make sure that we are here. Because as I said in the last video, we are permaculturists, and for us, rains are the most awaited event, and before the rains we need to do lots and lots of earthworks. So I don't even know whether we'll be in Hyderabad for the next coming few months. So just let us know before you are coming, so that we can let you know whether we are here or not. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot again, right? Take care. Bye.